The Phantom Army, 400,000 soldiers who vanished into eternity. In 260 BC, something happened in ancient China so monstrous, so incomprehensibly vast, that it would haunt the collective memory of an empire for millennia. An entire army, 400,000 men, disappeared from the face of the earth in a matter of days. No battle, no retreat, just silence. This is the story of history's most horrifying vanishing act, and the general who orchestrated it. The killing fields that history forgot. Picture this. You're a young soldier from the kingdom of Zhao, standing in a valley called Changping with hundreds of thousands of your brothers in arms. You've been fighting the Qin forces for 3 brutal years. You're exhausted, hungry, and your supply lines have been cut for 46 days. Then your enemy offers terms of surrender. You lay down your weapons, believing you'll be allowed to return home. Within a week, you and everyone you know will be dead, buried alive in mass graves that will remain hidden for over 2,000 years. This isn't fiction. This is what historical records suggest happened at the Battle of Changping, one of the bloodiest confrontations in human history, and a defining moment in China's brutal wars of unification. The architect of annihilation, the man responsible for this alleged massacre, was General Bai Qi, a military genius so ruthless that later historians would credit him with killing nearly 1 million enemy soldiers throughout his career. But Changping was his masterpiece of horror. According to the ancient historian Sima Qian, writing in his records of the Grand Historian, Bai Qi didn't just defeat the Zhao army, he erased it. The strategic brilliance behind the massacre makes it even more chilling. Bai Qi had lured the Zhao forces into a trap, cut off their supply lines, and waited. For over a month, the Zhao soldiers ate their horses, their leather armor, anything they could find. When they finally surrendered, Bai Qi faced a dilemma. He couldn't feed 400,000 prisoners, couldn't guard them, and certainly couldn't release them to fight another day. So he made a decision that would echo through history. The mechanics of mass murder. Here's where the story becomes almost unbearably dark. According to historical accounts, Bai Qi separated out 240 young soldiers, presumably to spread the news of Qin's mercy, and then ordered the systematic execution of the remaining 400,000 men. But how do you kill that many people with Bronze Age technology? The answer lies in the geography of Changping. Archaeological evidence suggests the presence of multiple ravines and valleys, natural trenches. Historical texts indicate the prisoners were divided into groups, driven into these valleys, and then buried alive. Some accounts suggest they were first weakened by starvation, making them easier to manage. Others hint at more active methods: mass beheadings, burnings, and systematic burials. Think about the logistics for a moment. If it took just 1 minute to kill each person, working non-stop, it would take nearly 9 months. The reality was likely far more efficient and far more brutal. Mass burials of living men, sealed in by thousands of Qin soldiers working in coordinated units. Why history can't let go? You might be thinking, surely this is exaggerated. Ancient historians loved inflating numbers, right? Here's where it gets interesting. For decades, scholars debated whether the Changping massacre actually happened at this scale. Then, in 1995, archaeologists made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the academic world. At a site in Gaoping, Shanxi province, the believed location of ancient Changping, excavators uncovered mass graves containing thousands of skeletons. The bones showed signs of violent death, skulls crushed by blunt instruments, skeletons in twisted positions suggesting burial while alive or freshly dead, and the chaotic arrangement consistent with mass execution rather than battlefield casualties. While 400,000 bodies haven't been found, and likely never will be, the site is massive and much has been lost to time and development. The physical evidence supports the core truth. Something catastrophic happened here, and it involved the deaths of an almost incomprehensible number of people. The psychological weapon. But why would Bai Qi do it? The answer reveals the cold logic of terror warfare. The Qin were pursuing a strategy of total war, the complete subjugation of rival kingdoms through overwhelming force and psychological devastation. By massacring the Zhao army, Bai Qi sent an unmistakable message to every other kingdom. Resistance is not just futile, it's suicidal. The strategy worked. Within 40 years of Changping, the Qin had unified China under the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. Yes, the same emperor famous for the terracotta army. That connection is darkly ironic. The man who created 8,000 clay soldiers to serve him in death ruled an empire built on the corpses of 400,000 real ones. The general who knew too much. Here's a twist that adds tragic irony to the tale. Bai Qi, the architect of this massacre, would himself become a victim of the regime he served. After Changping, he advised against immediately attacking Zhao's capital, arguing his army needed rest. The Qin king, Zhao Zheng, the future first emperor's predecessor, saw this as insubordination. In 257 BC, Bai Qi was forced to commit suicide. As he prepared to take his own life, Bai Qi reportedly said, "I deserve to die. At Changping, I buried alive 400,000 surrendered soldiers of Zhao. This alone is enough to warrant death." Even the butcher recognized the magnitude of his crime. The silence of the graves. What haunts historians most about Changping isn't just the scale, it's the silence. Unlike other ancient massacres, there are no monuments to these men, no commemoration, no individual names recovered. They were literally erased from history, buried in unmarked pits forgotten by time until archaeologists' shovels began uncovering their bones 2 millennia later. Modern forensic analysis of the discovered remains tells a grim story. Many skeletons show evidence of malnutrition, consistent with the siege. Some skulls bear the marks of decapitation. Others are jumbled together in positions suggesting they were thrown into pits en masse. One excavation revealed layers of bodies, the bottom layer crushed by the weight of those thrown in above them. Why this matters today? The Changping massacre raises uncomfortable questions that resonate across time. How do you quantify atrocity? At what point does a number become too large to comprehend? The Nazis murdered 6 million Jews. The Khmer Rouge killed 1.7 million Cambodians. Stalin's gulags claimed millions more. But in 260 BC, Bai Qi demonstrated that the capacity for mechanized systematic mass murder didn't begin with modernity. It just became more efficient. The vanished army of Zhao reminds us that the tools of genocide have changed, but the impulse remains hauntingly constant. It forces us to confront an unsettling truth. The first emperor who unified China created standardized writing and built the Great Wall. A man celebrated as a founding father, rose to power on foundations built from the bones of 400,000 forgotten soldiers. The graves still speaking today. Excavations continue at Changping. Each new dig season uncovers more skeletons, more evidence of that terrible week in 260 BC. The Chinese government has designated it a protected archaeological site, though development pressures constantly threaten it. Researchers estimate that only a tiny fraction of the mass graves have been excavated. The rest remain, silent witnesses beneath shopping centers, farms, and roads. 400,000 men walked into that valley. Perhaps their greatest tragedy isn't that they died, but that they were meant to vanish completely and very nearly did.